We ready?
Yep.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record show, roll call. We have all the governing body present and we have a quorum. This is a special meeting. Under new business, we have town hall bid award. We had multiple interests, which I think was good. We had a parent low bidder of Casper Building Systems. $835,500. There was two alternates. One was for putting a cover coming in. Alternate one, that was $55,250. And that was an entryway canopy. And the other one was the raised platform for the council and the judge. That was $4,860. I would recommend that we ultimate be the $4,860, the raised platform in the council chambers and judge, that we do that. That's a good thing. Simplifies a lot of plumbing and other things. But the canopy, $55,250, I would not recommend that we approve that. I think that's quite a bit of money for a canopy. Questions from the council?
How are we gonna pay for it?
That's a good question. It's we looked into this. We're proposing to do a construction loan for 12 months. We've been working with the Wyoming Community Bank. They've offered us a 5.5% interest during that time. That's a pretty good rate. And after 12 months, we would be working with them if, depending on how much money we would need to carry on into a 15-year agreement, loan agreement. And we anticipate selling some real estate to what we're sitting in here for one, to raise some of that money. I think conservatively think we can raise $300,000 between this property and some others that we are going to be selling here in the near future. We would like the authority to sign the construction agreement for $800,000. We have a $100,000 grant that will apply for that towards the building, and we'll see how much that we need to take in loan after a year, with the intentions of selling property and potentially paying that off. We can do that without going out of budget for 15 years. We have no intention that would take that long. I don't think that we could stay within budget and do that. And it's we're governed by how we can borrow money and what we borrow money by the Wyoming Constitution and state statutes, and we are following the state laws in doing that. I'd like to let Chris, if you got any more questions, get into the nuts and bolts of that. He can better explain it than I can.
What about a USDA loan?
We looked into that with all the hurdles. That's not saying we couldn't continue further, in the future. If they can offer us better than what we're getting with the bank, that's a possibility. The issues to do this in a timely manner, and with the 5.5% offered, with the additional cost that would also come with rural development, we felt this 5.5% with the bank was probably our best bet. We did reach out to rural development, and they actually reached out to us. But anyway, we had discussions and was working on it. But in consulting with our engineer, with the additional stipulations and stuff that comes with rural development, our engineer felt that we were better off doing this with Wyoming Community Bank.
And so what are those additional requirements from the feds?
It's a bunch of construction stuff, who you can hire, that falls under that.
Procurement. And it was about 2 years out before we'd be able to actually move forward. Approximately. From start of grant to finish a grant and start a project. If approved. I believe the interest was 3.5.
Could be 4. We didn't get a firm interest rate. We did not get a firm interest rate from them. We did the initial paperwork with them.
Well, that's what
Chris
that-
was in, yeah.
That was what that original certificate of incumbency was
Right.
back 2 months ago, was for that purpose. And then going down through the chain and communication with the rep from rural development kind of led us to this point here.
Did they say what the interest would be on the 15-year note?
5.5.
So it's carryover for the
Well,
duration of the,
Well, the note would be 5.5.
that's on the first year.
it'll be-
Interest only.
first year's interest only. It'll be based on treasury.
Okay, so that's,
Floats.
So it could be 5.5, it could be 5, it could be 6. What are
could
the
be
rates?
3.
Could be 3 or it could be, yeah.
Could be 8.
But-
Right.
But we looked at it, and even if it was 8%, we could still make the payments and stay in budget.
Did your payment, was it roughly 3,000 a month
It'd be over 4. Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
15-year?
5,500.
So,
That's the conservative side. 5,000 a month is
Yeah.
more on the less conservative side, which is like 6%. And then, of course, the lower the interest, the lower the more like. Forgive me, 6% or the 5,000 a month was at 6%. Not to get
And that was it, 5,000 a month?
5,013.
well, that's at 600,000. That's 6,000.
Oh.
This is, if we borrowed 500,000, 4,200 a month.
That's what I was playing with, was 500,000.
Right, which are 500,000, 4,200 a month.
So for clarification, the 800,000 line of credit for construction loan.
Right,
for
that's what
construction,
it's-
That's
Sure.
not actually what we would convert into the.
Right.
the
So I took the 800,000, 5.5% on the annual would be 44,000
Yeah.
interest. The bid's 850,000. And
So basically, what we look at, the first year, we wouldn't even initiate that first year until a couple months down the road. And at 800,000, we would draw that down plus the 100,000 from Homeland Security would get us to 900,000 total available without having to touch any cash.
And then if we pulled 300,000 from
And then,
other land,
Say-
300 plus or whatever.
well, I mean, just for instance, just worst case that, this is all pie in the sky, no land sales in the next 2 years. I know that's an honest question. I'll give you an honest answer. We've already committed that we were willing to take out 500,000 out of our general fund WildStar account. We'd take out 300,000, finance 500,000, be the same thing essentially. The way it would be paid for is, so there's, as the mayor was pointing out, there's stipulations on how we can lend money and the terms of which. One of those is the metric of 4% of our assessed value as a general fund. And that's $144,000 that we could lend because we're, according to the assessor of taxable property, worth 3.6 million. So
Of town,
of town taxable assets,
No.
not the school,
Taxable property within the city limit.
within the city limits, yes.
also collected, so
Yeah, sorry, not town hall,
Yeah.
the municipality.
not owned by the town of Shoshoni.
Owned
Or
by
the school,
everybody.
or the state or the county.
So reaching out with Wham and trying to find other cities with similar issues on how to fund these types of projects. What there is there's the one carve out is the enterprise funds, the water fund specifically, the water. Does not have a cap on indebtedness and can run a negative. So the framework of this would be, is that this would be funded through the enterprise fund, the water fund, not to increase rates, but then we would loan, the general fund would loan the enterprise fund the payments, and on paper, we carry a paper balance where the water enterprise fund owes the town X amount of dollars to pay it back, which in a, I guess an easier way to say it, you loan your son $10,000 to go buy a car. He agrees to pay it back. And does the bank care? No. Does anybody else care if he pays it back? So we would carry that balance and it'd be up to the town if the enterprise was making money to pay the town back. It'd be a paper balance. It would not be a bank carry balance. So in effect, 'cause we can't pay it directly, so but we can loan money from the town, can loan money to its sister agency, the enterprise fund, to then pay the debt. And then any land sales would go towards the principal balance in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, pay it down.
So in general, what revenues can contribute? So based on, so we can take the sale of real estate, say that contributes back to the
Yes.
project. What other things? So are you saying you can take money from, we take 5% from the sewer and water revenue?
No, we're not gonna take any money from the water or sewer. It's just gonna be funded through the
So what,
enterprise fund.
so what money, so how do we ultimately pay for it with?
We would budget the general fund
Oh,
to
okay.
pay the water fund,
To lend a lot of
to
water
lend
fund
the
money.
water fund on a yearly basis.
So the general fund would be revenues received from,
Taxes, police fines, the state, various entities that go into our
Direct
general
distribution.
all those types of things. And then, so it'd be a line item of borrowing money to the water fund, and then the water fund would then make the payments. That makes, I know. it's-
sure, I mean, but in simplified terms, when someone says, well, how are you gonna pay for your small towns? We have a general fund and we write tickets and we get taxes and we get these,
You could say,
Right.
yeah,
and we're
exactly.
gonna sell real estate. I mean, sorry, it gives the,
Ultimately, yeah, we're gonna, the plan is, the more, every dime that we make off real estate sales will go
go
to
toward it.
the debt to pay it off.
It's not one of those that say, well, we need $1 million and we've got $100,000 right now. We'll just pull it out of the sky and
And I wish I could say there was a better way. Obviously, I'm not a proponent of taking money out of our WildStar. I prefer to sell land. We're making good interest off our WildStar accounts and keep it there as long as possible is the ultimate goal. And if we can sell in the next year, current town hall, great. But we have a fallback plan. If we can't, we do have that option to, again, use that to what the actual note would be. And so the initial part, we have the cash, we can do what we want with it. Whether we put 500,000 down towards wherever the water fund would ultimately finance is up to the town if we didn't sell any property. But the other part of it is that's being left out, I guess, in the conversation is how much more lipstick can we put on this pig? And that's this building. We're not ADA compliant.
lot.
We just aren't. If you sit here at night, you will hear noises of everything dripping down into, so we need to, there's just a lot that we need to do with this if we're gonna stay here. And the question is, do we put $500,000+ and then abandon downstairs? Because we will never make that ADA compliant. We never will, unless we put an elevator, but where are we gonna put the elevator shaft? We don't have the floor space. So
Would this be non-ADA compliant? Does that make us racist or biased or?
until somebody sues us.
Until somebody sues us, yeah.
So you could also take, so over the duration of time. So if the lot's on the 40, when that develops, so as I can start to sell, you take that money,
Yes.
directly go into,
And we can do that by, if we had to, by, a resolution that stipulates that by the council, that any monies that were sold from land sales will only go to service this
Paying that
debt
debt.
until it's paid off and cannot be used for any other purpose. That's definitely, something that might make it a little bit easier to codify that way as well. There's just no other easy way forward, other than we pay all out of cash and we drain our reserves and then we're tied for the next 5-10 years, not to debt, but inability to act.
sure. I think if you'd set it up, if you have your principal say, so we're gonna make our 4,000, whatever our payment, we're gonna make a $5,000 payment every month as we sell real estate, put that toward the principal.
Correct.
So we continue to make our $5,000, but if we pay it off in 5 years instead of 15, but these big chunks just keep going to principal, knocking down.
30,000 here, 20,000 there. Yeah.
So there it is. If you sold one lot for $5,000 today, well, great, we just made $5,000 payment. But our structure over here, so as far as budgeting, planning, we're going to need 60,000.
And is what that would look like is we wouldn't budget anything for land sales. And then when we sell land, it'd come in as miscellaneous revenue. To make the budget work, we do a resolution, where we increase our revenues for the land sale, and then we'll have an expenditure line item that we increase with that commensurate with that land sale that's going to service the debt vicariously through the water department.
What's our interest on Milestar?
Right now, we're getting just under 4. So I know you're thinking in your head, well, 5.5, 4, we're losing money.
Well, which one?
But you have to think of it on a different way too, is that for every dollar we take from the WildStar is less dollars we have in our general fund for budgeting purposes.
Mhm.
And also less flexibility we have to make cash.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
But okay, I just want to make sure that
No, I said,
normally
it'd be
speaking.
one thing if you said, well, the bank note's gonna cost us 20%, but we're making
Yeah, well,
4%
that'd be,
over
yeah,
here.
that would be different, but yeah.
Sure. Because we do similar things and we can say,
You
well,
bet.
because it's the ability to say, well, here's $100,000 right now.
Yeah.
Without calling the bank and 6 months later.
And that's
Correct.
what this.
That-
gives
That's
us the
worth
flexibility.
a little bit to be able to do that.
And, but just have to be cautiously optimistic that worst case that we would, ensure that we don't lend more than the final note is not more than 500,000, which might entail drawing down 300,000 cash out of our general fund, WildStar, to ensure that that's if we sold no land, but then as we sold land, we could do the reverse and replenish that as well. So there's both ways to look at it, but it's just one of those things where this is the only way forward.
So what's in our WildStar accounts right now
1.26 million.
for that conglomerate?
So
Combined.
what's available for, what we had to do is you had the general fund at 429,000. That's just general that we haven't earmarked for anything in the savings. The court has 26,000, but court obviously still general fund because it's earmarked for court, but for the new town hall, it's going to contain the court as well.
That's right. So you can use
So
that.
you can use that. The police, now that's vehicle replacement, but it's also funded $81,000 for the 4th year of the cops grant. So that is not something that would be,
Can't touch it.
can't touch it. Because we need that for year 4 of our cops grant and then vehicle replacement by our ordinance. Obviously, senior housing, that's its own, so that operates
Can't touch it.
independent, can't touch it. The ARPA, that is, we've already decided that we're going to backfill until we can redo our census count as lost revenue replacement, so can't touch that either. The fire department, that's,
Nickels and dimes.
yeah, I mean, we don't care about the fire department.
They're just there.
Economic development, can't touch that. But what we can touch, since it's a water fund, is we can touch the water reserve and the water depreciation together if we needed to, if we wanted to, but basically, bar none, this is what we have to work with is 456,000 that we could draw down to pay off whatever the balance of the construction loan was to get it to a level that is acceptable for a monthly payment year to year that we can withstand. I will say, if you remember the last 4 years I've done the budget, we've always had flexibility with what we budgeted, and we've done revenue increases throughout time to pay for things. So I don't feel that anything more than 60, 70,000 a year as a payment would require cutbacks of any kind. And that's going off the last budget, which had 83,000 initially that we did. So there's that as well. But again, land sales, I believe, would offset a lot of that. I'm pretty confident that in the next 3 years, we can say we're going to sell some land. How much? I don't know. I think we'd sell some land the next year. I think this town hall, once we're out of here, it'd be a lot easier to sell. And if we get X amount of dollars for this building, and it goes right towards the debt that's just last year's, we have to pay it.
And we can also give them a date when we are going to go out. We're not pie in the sky, we're going to be out by the end of the year.
So what is the timeline on this? To have out of this building and into that one, November of this year?
November 30th.
So they have about a
Substantial completion is November 1st, and final completion currently is set for November 30th.
9 months, 9-month build.
But they're not going to start till,
Until April.
yes,
Yeah. probably.
mid-April.
Yeah.
So roughly-
Maybe, yeah.
Sure, roughly 8 to 9 months is their,
Yeah.
their window as far as.
Okay. And what demolition do they have to do prior to that date?
Not a lot, really.
Okay,
Well, the front kiosk area, that whole part's coming out and being replaced with, the front entryway. And then
Bathrooms are going to change.
the bathrooms are gonna change. So that's, most of what's in there is not gonna change a whole lot, other than just replacing the wall with the certified stuff that.
Okay. At one time we talked about redoing the heating system,
Yeah.
because they had basically two heating systems.
Yeah.
That's gonna be one of them we tore out, or,
We're putting all new heat.
okay,
Yeah, all those, that we've looked at trying to save one and doing this but geez, it needs some work. And I had a Johnson's control guy actually said a lot of the Johnson controls is pretty good, but it'd be pretty easy to spend, $100,000 on stuff if we weren't careful, if we put in one new boiler but a lot of that stuff had been replaced and he could service. But the recommendation was go ahead and I thought we could save some money, try to make it work, because it was top of the line and it's got, like 8 or 9 zones or whatever.
so is there a possibility of selling some of that heating system?
I don't know. We can see if it's got any salvage value.
I never thought of that.
I mean, if
Yeah.
they're take it out, I mean,
Want to buy any?
Load it nicely in the dumpster.
But it's, but there's, but anyway, so it's a whole new heating system.
And also by doing this, because we can show that we're general fund is subsidizing it, so any future request for water would not be put in danger, because the state looks at the balance sheet of our water. So just in case you get any questions on that, can we still act? Yes, we can, because we are gonna show a budget that it's being subsidized by the general fund, so the water department is functionally not showing a deficit. So it's not gonna impact that, and we still have the ability for sewer, anything else, so it's just a way through to fund it that is under the purview of water, since public works, water, everything works in here, so that's unfortunately just the way the statutes are written, that we have to.
The state constitution limits they give like, you can get 8% for sewer projects not appraised, assessed valuation, 4% non. Water does not have a limit on that.
Well, maybe it's a good thing though, that the tax assessor taxes on the medical clinic then.
Yeah, we gotta, yeah. But that's gotta be all, I gotta see how they're doing that. If their numbers are right, it means I own 3 properties in the city of town of Shoshoni and I have 10% of the valuation. What I'm getting taxed on. I think there's something wrong with that.
I don't want to tax us more.
I don't want to tax me more, but they seem to. Anyway,
You mentioned that putting this raised in the stuff for the town council and the judge said it's gonna help with plumbing. How is that gonna help with plumbing?
well, if all the plumbing and everything and electrical that'll be under there would have to be all jackhammered and put in the floor. So with this deck raised up above it, everything is down, wiring everything, because there's no place for it.
They're adding a bathroom and some other stuff.
Okay, that was not set, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
How is this
That's
helping?
where that ties
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Okay,
that
but
was-
nobody told me that.
Yeah.
But we were looking at, we looked at all sorts of try to cost saving deals after the last bids. That was one of the things, can we save a few nickels if we don't do that? And, and the heating, because the heating system was $180,000 last time. Well, I about had a heart attack. Maybe I did over that price, but, so that's a big ticket. And so, so we looked at it and it's just better to bite the bullet and do this.
What about parking lot? I know this isn't part of the bid, but
So that's gonna be something we'll have to, but we can actually use capital monies for that, capital project money, 1%. So we can actually still be able to budget for that. within
is there
our
parking?
budget.
Is it the same parking as currently more or less exists now? You have on this
Both
side of the
sides,
building
actually.
and then,
There's both, on both sides. So the backside is, yeah,
Coming off of 4th Street.
so we have both
I mean,
sides.
it's not, I mean, just look at what, it's like with the clinic, everything on the clinic, and all of a sudden, oh, we gotta put asphalt down here and wasn't a big deal.
Correct.
But it was just a,
And that's something we can do at a later time with using our 1%, and that could be without even, again, within the current confines of our actual budget.
but as is, it's serviceable, workable.
Yes.
Well, we could just fill the cracks.
Yes.
Yeah, on the front end, it's pretty good. The back end, I think, is actually, we might want to look at putting some on the west facing side, wrapping around at some point down the line, but I mean,
We
Is there
can
gonna be
even gravel
additional-
it in short term
yeah,
or basically.
Will there be additional landscape as far as, I don't know where the property line starts, are you gonna trees, sprinklers?
I'm sure over time, I think it's gonna be more just kind of like here, just little like flower.
There's just not a lot
Pots
of,
and
not a lot of
stuff like
space,
that.
more of a kind of a zero
Yeah,
scape.
It's got concrete and asphalt everywhere. We have to rip all that up, and there's a little strip there for maybe like a little bit of grass, but on the entryway, but other than that, it'll pretty much be whatever the town puts as a flower pot. Maybe we can get Councilman Zen to come grow some flowers or something.
What about the curb and gutter and approaches, those types of things? Are they all,
That wouldn't be touched in this either.
nothing has to be added? I mean, as far as those types of things, just what's in place right now. The egress, those things are just, those are fine for what.
For
What it
now,
is.
yeah. Yeah, and those would be maybe projects for down the line to finish up the outside at some point in the future.
But as of right now, I mean, aside from the big lump sum, we don't have, we can look at it and say, we're gonna need 800,000 for this, but we're not looking at these, well, this is gonna be an extra 200,000 6 months down the road as well. We're good on
Yeah.
a lot of stuff as
Well,
is.
there's, I think,
It'd be an improvement from what we currently have here for a parking lot, so it's.
But it's not a major, I mean, it's like I said,
it's Not a need.
it was like, yeah, the clinic needed the asphalt, and here's your clinic, come park your horse out
Right.
back, and it needed asphalt, it needed paint striping, it needed some things that went along with it
Correct.
so this is gonna need paint stripping, but we're not at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
there's still a service life in the asphalt, I think.
But-
Yeah.
it need a little bit of work, but I mean, that's,
But it's the nickels and dime stuffs. $5,000 in the parking situation, to put up your handicap signs, your striping, fill your cracks or whatever. I mean,
There,
Well, the cemetery board does fill some cracks in the road every year or every other year. You just talk to them and say, you know, when they're in town, go from there.
we'll be doing the same thing on that new asphalt we put down there this spring once it defrost and putting the
yeah,
sealant on there. Same thing.
Yeah, you can check all the roads in town, the parking lot.
do they use Dave's asphalt for that?
I can't answer that affirmative.
Okay. But it's, but there, you know, I think we need to be mindful that on a projects, you know, construction projects, there tends, I mean, things fall out of scope. We may have some of that. Used to be, you could figure 10% would be pretty well covered with talking with the engineer. Nowadays, he would recommend 15% to keep that in mind. Because, I mean, that's, when you say that's, what do you think, Mike? That's pretty,
sure, I think especially now with contingencies. Just, I mean, we're not talking like COVID stuff happening again, but just the difference of what freight costs. You know,
Yeah.
what pipe costs. And I look at what steel is doing. What we bought last week has supposedly gone up 12% this week. I mean, they gave us that heads up and said, if you want to buy heavy, buy heavy. So we bought heavy and they didn't confirm it went up 12%, but they said it's gone up.
okay.
So sure, I mean, I get, even on steel bid, we have some suppliers, they give us 24 hours. Used to be 30 days. It's 30 days on your bid and we have 24 hours. Just, and it's not crazy like it was in the
Okay.
COVID type
But
stuff.
steel's jumping up again, like if I want to put on a metal roof.
Mhm.
Figures.
Just those things that, I mean, there's stability, but it's expensive compared, you know, what was 60 cents a square foot, the new normal is 99 cents, $1.20. I mean, it's just some things that they've not come down. It's kind of like diesel. We just live around $5.
Right. Casper's $4 now. Here it's
$4.34 what I paid on my way home.
How much?
$4.34.
I paid $3.99.
Man, crude's up to 80
Tuesday,
something
huh?
today. Crude's up to over $80 today.
God
Yeah.
bless crude. At any rate. But yeah, that's. Any other questions, especially, you know, Chris? Everything kind of makes sense on our approach.
I don't know if there's any other avenues for any grants to help out with that. If we're doing police, library, town hall and all that.
I'll
but I
tell you
imagine-
that every single application that was put in
imagine
statewide
you've
for
looked into
anything
that.
for town hall
Yeah.
buildings was denied. Every single one
For
statewide.
Oh, so any municipality is going,
They will not fund down. That's with ARPA.
We looked at it.
Uh-huh.
We tried.
Are there any grants or anything like that for industries?
Uh,
I mean,
Not that I've been told or
Okay.
aware of.
Okay,
I'm sure if I looked hard enough, maybe there might be something. but
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
no more terrorist grants.
We got $100,000.
We got
Well, there's not
$100,000.
any more of those for another.
And I reached out, I asked if we could rebid, you know, that what we put in for, you know. And that money expires in August. So. It has to be spent.
When do we have to pay the contractor? Or start paying the contractor?
I'll have that answered for you in a few days. We'll have to meet with the contractor and go over the schedule and look at, so there's gonna be pay items
Uh-huh.
in the contract. And so I don't know how,
So that's not been set up yet. as
yeah,
far
you
as-
know, if he's front loaded the front end or he's getting, you know,
Sure.
Yeah.
Pulling 50% up front and then multiple payments
yeah,
or something.
you know, I don't know what, haven't seen his pay schedule. So, but
But the initial pay schedule will probably come from our enterprise funds.
Well.
Or do we think the bank comes through fast enough to say, here's your 800,000 line of credit?
So we have in our current budget, yes, we do have a pay code for, that we had originally anticipated $500,000. I would. I think until all that comes to fruition, because ideally it would happen after we start our budget July 1st, and we can actually budget it into the water where not have to do adjustments mid-budget.
Right.
That ideally, just it gets chaotic doing that. But if we had to start paying up front, then we would pay out of our general fund up until the point that our revolving account, which is our checking account, dropped to a level that required drawing down, and then we would drop it. But that would be less than we would lend, obviously, because we basically you're taking it now instead of later.
Mhm.
And then if we sold land to,
But if the bank comes through in 30 to 60 days with the line of credit anyway, then
it's no.
we're fine.
And I think that's reasonable to assume they will.
I know we got the preliminary approval just from this process. Before we even had this meeting to make sure that it was approved, so. I would, yeah, I mean, we would hold out on withdrawing anything and just pay it out of our general fund up until that point that we couldn't anymore, just to maximize the return that we're getting off,
Mhm.
obviously,
Mhm.
which I think we can hold out more than 60 days before we're at that point.
Sure. Especially the contractor's not going to start for 30
He's not starting tomorrow,
to 60 days.
so we have a little bit of
Mhm.
lead time on that, so. And I'm sure they'll work with us and the contractor where we can structure where we can budget for it in an entirely new budget year, not have to modify what we're currently doing now just to make it easier. We're talking July 1st, it's right around the corner. So I don't.
Because even the
for sure.
contractor starts, their time for ordering material is still going to be. So their initial come demo tear stuff out. I mean, their initial cost is probably limited. They'll have 30 days or 60 from their suppliers as well.
So I think the timing of it will be right there at the July deadline. So
Mhm.
I think we'll be able to just do it that way, even if we had to make a payment July 1st.
Sure.
But worst case, we would pay it ahead of time, and then if and when we didn't sell land, we had to take some out of Wildstar to before it converted into the node, it'd be less because we had paid up front, so we would borrow less too. So I would look at it.
If there was just a for instance, if the town happened on $100,000 catastrophe after we've done this, we'd be fine. So I use that as an example. If I lose an engine in a truck, if I always say if 50,000 happens right now today, what do we do? And I figure as long as I can answer that question, then
We're funded on vehicles, we're funded on capital projects, we're funded on sewer, and the water remains untouched.
so I find that for the general public, would be, well, what if we lose a well? Well,
This
We're
has no
good at
impact
this.
on that.
what if a cop car gets ran over? Well, we're good for this over here.
Well, hopefully it's mine because it's the oldest one. We get a new one with our insurance. But other than that, we have a resolution or an ordinance that stipulates certain things that these are all paid for, so they're already paid for or accounted for outside of this. So this would not have an impact on that. What this would have an impact on is if you wanted to build a statue of Mike Demick outside town hall, and you want to use general fund money next year, we wouldn't have that $50,000 extra on the general fund item, not a capital project item. So pet projects would not have the ability other than need. In all actuality, that's what would go away is little
Pet
projects that
projects.
we want to do here and there. 10,000 here, 20,000 there. That would go away unless we wanted to draw out of this to pay for it. But in the year-to-year budget, that's what we
Do we have to have, is there a public hearing for doing this?
I believe we'll have to do a resolution for the bank.
I mean, as far as if somebody wanted to come contest and say, well, I want pet projects A, B, C, and D, and say, sorry, we chose to build this, go this direction. But people, they have an opportunity to come and say, what about this? Or ask their own questions, kind of like what we're doing right now.
Well, we'll have to do a resolution for this. And at that time, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people in here.
I mean, I hope they were here. I would hope they can come hear the good, the bad, the ugly, the whatever they
Yeah,
want,
no, absolutely. Well, yeah, it's,
and have their own peace of mind and say, well, what if my street caves in? No problem. We'll do this and this and this. You're good to go.
we're not, and those won't be touched by anything or impacted by anything we're doing with this. You know, it's a large sum of money on the onset. I get that. But what if we don't? You know, it comes down
Keep
to,
making 4% interest. What we'll keep doing.
we do that.
We got some man
But then
camps.
Yeah, we'll get some man caps, after we put in all the money that we would be paying for this into this for the next 5
Oh, we'll
years.
just mothball this and we'll put man camps over someplace close by. Job trailers.
Oh, okay. Oh, like a PD. Okay.
Like the
No,
PD
they're smaller.
modular.
Modular. We'll have a modular town hall. It's temporary for 5-6 years.
2030, you know, it's kind of.
We might get better terrorist funding at that point. When the semi runs through one of them.
You know, we pull over enough of people, we're bound to get somebody,
Somebody happened.
but I mean, that's. You know, I'm sure everybody has an opinion and it just comes down to. We believe in the town or we don't.
It seems like where we're at is kind of just a ticking time bomb on when we're gonna have to dump a bunch of cash into this. to just keep-
You looked over there?
Yeah, well, all right, so we
Figured
already
put in a
passed that.
skylight or something.
We thought about it.
I'd rather put the cash into the end goal, like when we made the land swap 3 years ago for this reason, than put it into here when we want something else.
And this isn't gonna tie up our ability to leverage grant matching money for power, water infrastructure, sewer infrastructure on the new acreage either. Because this is complete, that's what I was hinting at earlier about. That if we just took the straight out of the water and set the water to pay for it and ran a deficit in the water fund, yeah, the state's not gonna want us any, or not gonna give us a grant for anything, but we're not doing that. We are loaning the funding from the general fund to the water fund, so it is not running the deficit.
Is it fair to say we don't, if we were to say in the town of Shoshone collectively, so if we're gonna spend the money on something, is there a good, better, and best? Because I can't, I'm not coming up with anything to say, well, we could do a town hall or we could build the shrines enticing, but
I'm sure it is. I mean,
but
you know, we could do it and play the gold.
I don't feel like we have other things from the community to say, well, what about a swimming pool or what about? I don't, like, I'm looking to say it's a lot of money, but you're right. You invest in me, you invest in your future. That's what you do. If we can sit at 4% and have a modular, I mean, I get that. Or they're getting, sometimes people quit renting and they buy a house because they're tired of renting and want to do something different. Or, but I'm not. It's just showing. I mean, I try to think of what's the opinion of why didn't you do this? Why didn't you fix my road? Why didn't you do this? And I think there comes a point where you say, well, that's what we chose to do.
That was kind of what I was hinting at, you know, the dichotomy is we do this, or we go down the path of what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? Until do we need a town hall that's unified that has, you know, a library, police department, town offices? You need somebody to talk to for police. This is where you go. You have someone answers the phone when you call. We have 3 different buildings. We don't have enough staff. So when you call the library, sometimes you're here, sometimes you're there. Call the police department, sometimes we're out there, sometimes we're here. Having it all under one building is a town center, the heart of the town.
And save us
This was the
money,
heart of the
too.
town, but that would become the heart of the town.
I feel like it's like Tim's project over here. They needed needs and wants. The need was it's congested. So he figured out a way to solve the congestion problem. He took the time and bought the block and blah, 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 made it to where he could build something. So that was the plan. He's got a problem. The problem was he's got too much traffic. good problem to have. And so he invested into his future saying, it's a bigger roof, it's all under, more pumps. So I'm in agreement on the town side. I think the organization, as far as go here, not here, A, B, or C.
And that would be where I say the need comes in. The want question would be, well, we want a fancy brand new thing, not a remodeled.
Sure, we want a jacuzzi on the top of the
So that's
roof.
the kind of the compromise a little bit. But also opening this up for something else to be here ultimately is always. been
Sure,
the
part
goal.
of the goal. And I think that's where it's your give takes. If you want, there is no chance of anybody buying this because we're here.
It's kind of hard.
So there's
Not having an exit strategy, even if they were to buy, well, where are we gonna go?
sort of
I
modular.
mean, you move in, we can move town hall to police department, I'm totally fine with that. We have the council meeting in the evidence room. I apologize for the smell, but you know, I can't destroy everything.
That sounds like cost savings, really.
I shouldn't have said
Just the heating alone.
that. And then, yes, the splitting all the utilities, you know, we're getting, lack of a better word, butchered this year by utility costs. I mean, it's just, this winter is just.
Sure, you got heat on 3 instead of 1. Yeah,
Yeah, totally. And, you know, and the water infrastructure is gonna, we're gonna have to pay for that with the SCADA. Do we install it in here? We just got this brand new grant for this fancy SCADA system, and the control module will be here in town hall. Do we put it here and then abandon it and have to pay to move all that again? Or, you know, so there's a lot more to just.
sure.
moving everything.
In the future, and there's other stuff that's already happening. I would
There's a lot of
get that.
planning, yeah, that goes into it. I mean,
So I make a motion, get this done and over with.
okay, I'll stop
Thank you.
talking.
It's- So I move we approve the remodel town hall bid by Casper Building Systems.
Could I be clear on that? Is that the base bid plus alternate 2 for 4860?
Yes, with alternate 2 is 4860.
So is that 830? 835,000.
840,
41,
41.
60.
Do they have any contingencies in their bid?
Pardon?
Was there any contingencies in their bid as far as up or down 10%?
I do not remember.
As far as they get, is that in the fine print? Hey, OSB went up and shingles went up, and remember that 10% we told you was in there?
Yeah, I don't remember that being in their bid,
I'm not seeing
but
it.
I don't have the whole, I'm looking at this. I don't see, let's see,
So I guess if we approve the bid that's on there, then I guess we're covered, yeah.
yeah, and else we get out of scope. If something comes up out of scope.
Sure, if they had a change order, I mean, I guess they're privileged. If they want to put in a change order, doesn't mean they get it, but
No, correct, they can request,
they are, mhm.
they can request, but yeah, I don't see anything in there.
So I guess the motion is to approve it, just approve the as bid with
Option 2.
Option 2,
option 2.
With
46.
option 2.
4860.
Can I have a second?
I second it.
Been moved by Councilman Zant, second by Councilwoman Hardkey, that we approve the Casper building systems for the base bid and addenda 2. The base bid was $835,500. Addendum 2 was $4,860. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, pulls the same motion. And I'll get hopefully by our next council meeting, I'll have information more information on them and move forward. I'm supposed to be sitting down, meeting with them and going over everything.
Oh, shoot, I asked for some swings. That was my chance.
It's still on my board. I'm just- I don't know where to put them right now under the 4 feet of snow.
Put them on my shrine arms.
Oh. Yeah.
On the muscles.
Big swings.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
It's not.
Been
8 o'clock
moved
yet.
by Councilman Zet, second by Councilman Stedler that we adjourn. Excuse me. All in favor, say aye. Aye,
Aye.
opposed, same.
We haven't had dinner yet, Mike.
At 7